Lord, the light of your love is shining in the midst of the darkness shining. Jesus, light of the world, shine upon us. Set us free by the truth you now bring us. Shine on me. Shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine. Fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze. Set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow. Flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light.
Good morning and welcome to Let the Bible Speak. My name is Alex Meredith. I'm really glad you are joining us this morning for this continued discussion about the crown. We're looking at the early years of the Israelite monarchy, particularly what we see in the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel, in the lives of Saul, and in the life of David. So grab a Bible if you don't have one with you already. You can pull it up on your phone, a tablet, computer, hard copy if you've got it, whatever you need to do. And before we get started, I'm going to tell you a brief little story here. I was sitting on the couch in our living room one day, and I was watching television. I don't even remember what I was watching, but I was kind of consumed by it. And you know those conversations, if you can call it that, where your wife's talking to you and you're looking at the TV screen and you think you're listening, but then it gets to the end and you think, I don't have any clue what she is asking me. I don't have any clue what she was talking about. I thought I was listening, but I wasn't. And she gets to the end of whatever she was saying, and she says, well, I love you. Now, if you were in my shoes, if you were a sane husband, what do you think you would respond with at that point? She says, I love you. You say, I love you too. But I was a little distracted, a little consumed with what was going on in front of me. She said, well, I love you. I said, okay. Believe it or not, she wasn't too thrilled with me. And that was totally my fault, right? And that is to say that the words we say, and sometimes even the words we don't say, they really do matter. They really do matter. You've probably heard the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but what? But words can never hurt me. I think there's a nugget of wisdom in there somewhere. Maybe it's overstated sometimes today because words can't physically injure you. You're not going to be physically harmed by the words that are spoken to you, and maybe sometimes the words that are spoken to you, you just need to brush off and keep on moving, whatever. But I think we would be a bit negligent if we were to say that words are powerless, that they mean nothing. Because words do have power. They do have power, and they really do mean something, right? They have the power to love or to hate, to uplift or to tear down, to heal or to injure. Yes, I still remember Damian Smith calling me fluffy all those years ago. Really stuck with me, that one. But here's the thing. We often underestimate the power and the importance of our words. And maybe sometimes we need to be a little more careful, a little more intentional with the words that we speak. There's an old children's song, maybe you've heard it. It goes like this. It goes, be careful, little tongue, what you say. Be careful, little tongue, what you say. For the Father up above is looking down in love, so be careful, little tongue, what you say. It actually runs through all of the different senses. Be careful, little ears, what you see. Little eyes, what you see. Ears, what you hear. Tongue, what you say. Because all these things matter. And what we say really does matter. I think that's a really important message. So in continuing with this series, talking about the life of Saul at this point, we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 14. starting in verse 24. 1 Samuel 14:24. And to give you a little bit of context here, the Philistines have been defeated by Israel, and at this point they are running away, and the Israelites are trying to hunt down the last bit of them that are fleeing to make sure that they don't get a chance to regroup and counterattack, right? So the Israelites are trying to chase down the Philistines, and before this battle, during this battle, after this battle, it's been a long day. They are hungry and they are angry. And the big thing is they're hungry, right? So with that in mind, let's read 1 Samuel 14, starting in verse 24. And the men of Israel had been hard pressed that day, so Saul had laid an oath on the people, saying, "Cursed be the man who eats food until it is evening, and I am avenged on my enemies." So none of the people had tasted food. Now, when all the people came to the forest, behold, there was honey on the ground. And when the people entered the forest, behold, the honey was dropping. But no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. But Jonathan had not heard his father charge the people with the oath, so he put out the tip of the staff that was in his hand, and dipped it in the honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes became bright. Then one of the people said, "Your father strictly charged the people with an oath, saying, 'Cursed be the man who eats food this day.' And the people were faint. Then Jonathan said, 'My father has troubled the land. See how my eyes have become bright because I tasted a little of this honey? How much better if the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies that they found. For now the defeat among the Philistines has not been great.'" Interesting passage. It starts out with this reminder about how hard of a time they've had, right? It says in verse 24 that they were hard pressed. And you think about last week, in chapter 13, verses 6 and 7, it was talking about how not only were they hard pressed, but they were hiding out in caves. I mean, it was a long day, right? To say the least, it was a long day. And they had finally gotten this victory, but Saul wasn't satisfied yet. He had not totally wiped them out. And so Saul made this oath. In verse 24, he said, "Cursed be the man who eats food until it is evening, and I am avenged of my enemies." Now, a couple things to note here. God's appointed leaders throughout Scripture seem to have a special kind of binding power. What I mean by this is simply that their words really meant something. For instance, in Joshua chapter 6, right after Joshua and the Israelites defeat the city of Jericho and wipe everything out, they were told to completely destroy the city. And in Joshua 6:26, Joshua lays a curse on the city of Jericho. And he says that anyone who rebuilds the walls of the city will do so at the cost of his firstborn son. And wouldn't you know it, hundreds of years later, actually in the book of Kings, there is a king who rebuilds the city of Jericho, and his firstborn son is taken from him. Because Joshua's words meant something. They were binding. Well, Saul's words really meant something, right? If nothing else, even if they didn't have some sort of supernatural binding power, you could say, or God was going to enforce it, Saul was ready to enforce it. Saul said, "This is going to be the way it is, and if anyone disobeys, if anyone eats before I'm avenged of my enemies, they're going to die." And he doubles down on this later on in this passage as well. So he's really committed to this, and these words really mean something. And you got to think, why did he make such an oath? What would be the motivation? What would be the purpose behind it? Maybe it's a tactical reason, right? Maybe he thinks that the Israelites will fight just that much harder and that much faster if they know that the sooner they finish their work, the sooner they catch the Philistines, the sooner they'll eat, right? But it primarily seems to be an oath driven by anger, doesn't it? He's angry. He feels like he's been attacked. I mean, they have They've been attacked, they've been hard-pressed, and in his anger he makes this oath that is really crippling the Israelite people who are desperately hungry. And then you have Jonathan. The Israelites are walking through the forest, and the forest is taunting them, isn't it? The tree is just dripping with honey. It's not just that honey is there, it's dripping from the honeycombs in the tree. And they can't have any of it. But Jonathan didn't hear the oath that Saul had made, his father. And so he takes his staff, dips it in a honeycomb, and then gets some with his hand and eats it. It's at this point, by the way, that it says that in verse 27, his eyes became bright. It says this twice in this passage. This is actually a very specific way of talking about how certain sweet foods, the effect that it would have on the body. There's an explanation of this in what's known as a Talmud, which is a collection of ancient Jewish writings. Listen to the way it describes it. Whoever suffers from the effects of intense hunger, let him eat honey and other sweet things, for such eatables are efficacious in restoring the light of one's eyes. Now, not incredibly pertinent to the story at large, but I find it interesting the way it's described, because it was believed that honey was really this energy-restoring, life-giving food. And Saul was denying them all of that. So Jonathan eats the honey, and Israel is now very afraid. It says they became very faint because of what Jonathan had done. They were afraid that Jonathan was going to get in trouble, right? So there were a number of consequences that followed from these rash words that were spoken by Saul, which, by the way, that is absolutely what happens when rash words are spoken, right? When we make promises we can't keep, when we tell lies, when we hurl insults, we tend to pay the consequences. And the more we double down on it, the more it tends to get worse and worse too. So in verses 31 and 32, well, I'll just read this, actually. Verses 31 and 32, listen to what happens as a result of Saul denying them food until this point. They struck down the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon, and the people were very faint. The people pounced on the spoil and took sheep and oxen and calves and slaughtered them on the ground, and the people ate them with the blood. If you look at passages like Genesis chapter 9, verse 4, tells us very clearly you're not supposed to eat the animals with the lifeblood in it. There was a preparation process that had to take place in which the blood was drained. Some people would argue this was not only part of the ceremonial law, this was actually to keep the Israelites healthy, right? So they weren't supposed to eat the animals with the blood. This was against Mosaic law. But they were so desperate and in such desperate straits that they had to eat as soon as they possibly could. So they finally defeat the Philistines, and they take the oxen and the calves and kill them, and are so desperately hungry they just eat them right away before the preparation process can take place. So that's the first thing that happens. Then in verses 36 and 37, because of Israel's sin on that matter, God refuses to answer Saul when he seeks his blessing to attack the Philistines again. It's the result of Israel's sin. And then in verses 38 through 46, we're not going to read this right now, but you have this whole process where Jonathan is almost killed. They find out that Jonathan is the one who, in fact, ate the honey. They do so through a process called Urim and Thummim, which is a process of casting lots. It was a sort of randomized process that God was behind to deliver them some sort of message or revelation. So it was revealed that Jonathan was the one who had eaten the honey, and Jonathan was totally willing to accept God's punishment. In verse 44, actually, and Saul said, God, do so... starting in verse 43. Jonathan said, I tasted a little honey with the tip of my staff that was in my hand. Here I am, I will die. Jonathan was ready to die. He was ready to accept the punishment. But then it says that Israel saved him. It says the people ransomed Jonathan that day. So all of this happened because of a few foolish words that were uttered in the course of anger. I think the message today really is quite simple. I go back to that song once again. Be careful, little tongue, what you say. Be careful, little tongue, what you say. For the Father up above is looking down in love, so be careful, little tongue, what you say. You know, the Bible tells us a lot about the tongue, about the words that we speak. I want to go through a few passages with you on that note. So first of all, let's go to Proverbs chapter 18. Proverbs chapter 18. In the first few passages, we're going to see that the Bible warns us quite a bit about the destructive power of our words. So this is Proverbs 18, verses 6 through 8. A fool's lips walk into a fight, and his mouth invites a beating. A fool's mouth is his ruin, and his lips are a snare to his soul. The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body. And then in verses 20 and 21, from the fruit of a man's mouth his stomach is satisfied. He is satisfied by the yield of his lips. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. That's a strong statement. And those who love it will eat its fruits. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Goes to show you the incredible power that the tongue has, right? Then we go to Matthew chapter 12. Matthew 12, 36 and 37. This is a very poignant, somewhat scary passage, I think. Matthew 12, 36. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. So be careful, little tongue, what you say, right? Then finally, this is in James chapter 3. James, right after the book of Hebrews, towards the end of your Bible. James 3 is starting in verse 3. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large, are driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder, wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire, the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed, and has been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. Talk about the power of the tongue. Use that image of a large ship, the whole thing being steered by a small rudder. In the same way, the tongue very much controls the entire body, right? So we see the power of our words. And then we're instructed to use our words for good, not for evil. Let's go to Proverbs 16, back into the Old Testament, and back to the book of Proverbs. This is Proverbs 16, starting in verse 23. Here we go. The heart of the wise makes his speech judicious and adds persuasiveness to his lips. Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. And then in Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians 4, verse 29. The whole book of Ephesians really is about changing your ways and especially your speech. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." And then in chapter 5, verse 4, "Let there be no filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor crude joking, which are out of place, but instead let there be thanksgiving." So we have these passages that show us to put aside any speech that is not helpful, that is not useful for building up, and to replace that those bad habits with uplifting and encouraging speech. Maybe even speech, you could say, that points upwards, not inwards, right? And then finally, we're encouraged by the words of Jesus. Go to John chapter 11, verse 25. This is within the story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. Mary and Martha are grieving the loss of Lazarus, and Jesus assures them with this message in verse 25. Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live." Then in chapter 14, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also." And then in verse 6, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Those were not rash promises. Those were not words spoken in a fit of emotion. Those were not words that were out of control. Those were not meaningless words. They were promises that we can trust, that we can believe in. They really mean something. So, again, goes back to this message. Be careful what you say. A couple more passages I want to share with you. One is in James, the book of James we were in earlier. Here we go, James chapter 1, verse 19. Listen to this. "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger." Quick to hear and slow to speak. That's a rare quality these days, I think. And then another passage, back to Proverbs. I know I'm kind of swapping back and forth. There's a purpose behind it. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19. "When words are many, transgression is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent." Sometimes we need to slow down. Sometimes we just need to be quiet. If you're like me, maybe you struggle with that. I watched a video years ago. It was actually an interview with a Buddhist monk, of all people. It was a very particular sect of Buddhism as well, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that sect of Buddhism was. And of course, this is somebody that I would disagree with a lot of things over. I would disagree with him about a lot of different things, obviously. But I found something really interesting about this interview that he conducted. The interviewer, an American journalist, was asking him questions in about the way you would expect. He would ask a question, and the question would come to an end, and then he would hear this. "I don't think that," and the entire interview was like that. His responses were so measured and so intentional and so purposeful, because in that particular sect of Buddhism, there was one of the things that was highly valued was being very deliberate with the words that you say and giving no more and no less information that is needed to answer. Now, like I told you before, I would disagree with this man about a large number of things, but I learned a lesson in watching that video, that maybe if we were a little more careful, a little slower to speak, a little better listeners, we might just make things a little bit better. We live in a world, where we can speak more quickly and easily than ever before. All it takes, and in fact, got it right here, right? All it takes is for you to, get here and you just pull it up. And look, if I wanted to, in 20 seconds, I could have something posted for the world to see, right? you could probably do the same thing. Whether it's on your phone, your computer, your tablet, whatever, you can probably do about the same thing. And oftentimes those things that go out into the world, or even that we say to other people through text, things like that, we just think and then we do it. Or maybe we don't think and we just do it because our emotions are dictating how we feel. And how often has it been the case that we allow our emotions control our tongue? We need to slow down. Be careful, little tongue, what you say. Be careful, little tongue, what you say. For the Father up above is looking down in love, so be careful, little tongue, what you say. One last passage I want to share with you. This is also from the book of Proverbs, chapter 14 this time. Proverbs 14, verses 2 and 3. Whoever walks in uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is devious in his ways despises him. By the mouth of a fool comes a rod for his back, but the lips of the wise will preserve them. Be wise with the way you use your lips today and throughout this week. I hope this lesson has challenged you to rethink, or perhaps just think about the words that we say, because the Bible shows us how much power they have and how important they are. Before we wrap up, I know I didn't get the chance last week, so I want to remind you this week about our Bible correspondence course. If you don't know about this, this is a 7-part workbook series that we send you the first one if you just let us know that you want to participate. We send you the first one. It's an aid to help you learn to study and go through the basics of Scripture. You fill it out, send it back to us. We give you some feedback and send you the next one until you work your way through the series. If you want to do that and don't have a Bible, or if you don't have one anyway, we also offer free of charge ESV hardcover Bibles. We have that in both regular print and large print. If you need one like that, just let us know that you need it or want to participate in the Bible correspondence course. The contact information is there up on the screen. You can reach us at the Marquette Church of Christ, P.O. Box 372 in Marquette, Michigan, zip code 49855. That's our mailing address. You can also find a lot of this information and other information, including other episodes and the like, on letthebiblespeak.net. That also has some links to some other local churches in the area if you're looking for a place to worship and don't have one. You can also listen to Let the Bible Speak on the Let the Bible Speak UP podcast. That's available both on Podbean and Spotify. So I really wanted to thank you for joining us not only this morning, but as we go through this series. I think there are a lot of valuable lessons with regards to godly leadership, something this culture desperately needs more of in people like you and me and everyone else around us. And we'll continue that next week. Hope to see you then. May God bless you. Have a great week.
Set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow. Flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord.